Hello and welcome to Worship at Home for Sunday, June the 18th. Over the last few weeks, a number of our churches and Bible study groups have been looking at the books of Revelation. And this week we focus particularly on chapters 10 to 13, which is a lot of material to cover in 1 week. So I've focused my reflection this morning on chapter 12, verses 1 to 17. And I think it would be a good idea to read that reading for yourselves before you listen to this reflection. I really struggle with the battle terminology and images in Revelation chapter 12. It's one of those passages I've often skipped and found it really hard to focus on in preaching especially. Some of the terminology there which is used is about war in heaven, fighting back, defeat, conquering, victory, all terms which are associated with war. And I think sometimes there's enough of this already in our world without thinking about it when we read the Bible too. But such imagery is not used by John in Revelation to support war and conflict. John uses the language to emphasize that a mighty battle between good and evil has already been fought and won. Though much of Revelation seems to suggest that these things are going to happen at the end of all things, John makes it very clear that good has already defeated evil, and that should bring us hope. And Jesus' act of salvation is not just for an elite group, but for all people. And Revelation chapter 5 reminds us that that's for every tribe and every language and every people and nations. And it brings us hope because it means that we need no longer be trapped by evil. We need not be afraid of the dragons in our lives, those things which draw us away from God. The dragon's anger is not a sign of his power, verse 12, but of the fact that he's already defeated. The dragon does make a reappearance in a slightly different form in chapter 13, more like a sea creature, and like many stories, the beast returns in an even more evil form, but then finally disappears from the scene at the end of the chapter. So we can be filled with hope. But we are also greatly challenged because we look out into our world and we see wars and we see conflicts. There was a news story recently which may have gone unnoticed about Russia's most famous religious icon, Andrei Rublev's Trinity. The icon was made in the early 15th century and is perhaps the most valuable of all Russia's icons. It's extremely fragile and vulnerable, and this icon was transferred at great risk from a museum to a Moscow cathedral by order of President Putin. Said Regina Elsner, a theologian and researcher of the Russian Orthodox Church, Putin has an interest in keeping the church on his side in this war, to show he respects the church. How easy it becomes to use faith as a weapon and justify killing and maiming, bombing and destruction. Had we read as far as Revelation chapter 13, we would have discovered a call for the saints to persevere and to endure in the face of attacks by the beast. This is not a call to endure in any circumstances, because there can be times when you feel less safe, and then you know that the best thing to do is find a person or group you can trust for support. The followers of the Lamb, as John describes Jesus' followers, maintained their witness and following of Jesus, even to the point of death, because of what they believed. But not only because of their perseverance, but because their victory is dependent on Jesus' victory. So, as a result of all of this, what should our responses be? So I make a note of 3 particularly. First of all, to wait. To wait in faith, in prayer and exploration of the Bible, and to do this with others who seek the same. Secondly, our response should be to challenge injustice because of our faith, but not using our faith as a weapon. And thirdly, to help build the church, and not the building or the fabric, but the people called church, as a safe but dynamic community, welcoming every tribe, every language, and every nation.